Arrogance. Arrogance and failure are perhaps two of the absolute worst combinations you can have. You see, most people, when they fail, at least when they have any sort of inkling to do introspection, will analyze why they failed. They'll ask, what is it that I can do different? Is there a way to change it? The arrogant, the proud, they tend not to think that way. They don't think that what they've done is a failure because of how they did it, but rather just in how it's perceived and what they can maybe change a little bit on the outcome side of things. And that really is the reality that we live with in South Africa. Everyone with half a brain can look at the last 30 years of South Africa and say lives have not gotten better. If anything, it's gotten a lot worse. Taxes in South Africa are now so prevalent that the state walks away with way more than half of all of the money that you make every single month. I mean, the single biggest item on almost every single South African's paycheck is taxes. The government takes more than everything else in this country. And that, of course, just by default means that everyone has less to spend on the actual economy, on buying things, on buying homes and buying cars. You know, things that the government could also get taxes from. So in reality, the more the government taxes personal income, the less they have from other tax sources, which is a dangerous spiral to go down. But of course, the ANC has to do this because of other policies that they have in place, like BEE, which the ANC internally, at least if Frans Cronje is to be believed, understand that it is a giant failure and it has not worked. But to admit that now, when you have basically died on that hill of BEE so many times, when you have made your entire election strategy and the strategy of funding your own party Black economic empowerment, how do you unwind that clock? You have to understand, for the ANC, in order to keep all of the factions together, and we've had many conversations here about the factionalization of the ANC, and that these factions are not natural allies. They all agree on communism. It's how that communism is achieved that they very starkly disagree on. The ANC and their offshoots, like the MK and the EFF, it's a bit of a precursor of what happens when one faction has views that the ANC as a whole simply cannot adhere to. So when Julius Malema wanted to make even more money, and that would mean taking money from other cadres, the ANC had to say no. In saying no, Julius Malema left and started his own political party. When Jacob Zuma and the RET faction within the ANC wanted more money and more corruption, more power for their faction, the ANC couldn't say yes because they had other factions suckling at the teat as well. And so Jacob Zuma and his party left and they started their own political party. Because every single one of these groups are only really interested in the power that comes from the political office. They don't care about governing or running the country. And when you have that, it means that doing away with the main funding mechanism of your party, BEE, would be political suicide. This is why the ANC are constantly going back and forth on this, saying they're open to debating and discussing with the DA changes that could be made to BEE, but being firm on the fact that BEE itself will never be replaced in our country. Here you even have Paul Mashatile, the Deputy President of South Africa, admitting that the ANC have completely failed. Take a look at this. As we approach the 2026 local government elections, the point of departure, comrades, is that as the ANC, we have not done enough to improve the lives of South Africans. We must take accountability for this. This is where the interesting thing lies, because when you actually go down and you look at what the ANC's answer to all of this is, ANC members are now forced to attend a foundation course of the party to be full members. There are a lot of people who came into the ANC without knowing it, but they love it. But when we don't teach them, they will do the wrong things. Effectively, what Paul Mashatile is saying is that all of the people that join the ANC join because they want to do the wrong things. They want to steal, they want to corrupt, they want to take. But they have to get a course in how to take. It's important that you understand this. For the ANC, a zero corruption South Africa has never been the goal. It was Jacob Zuma who famously said that the cadres must eat, right? Or the comrades must eat. One of the two. They're basically the same thing. But the comrades must eat. You see, the idea for them isn't that corruption is bad. It's that too much corruption is bad. And this is where foundational courses like this one come in. Let's teach the cadres how much they're allowed to steal before they have to slow down, because we still have a country that we have to barely run. The truth is, when they say they haven't done enough, what have they done? Show me a single thing that the ANC has built that hasn't been destroyed by literally everything else that they do. The ANC famously thinks that they have done some things. Fikile Mbalula is one of these people who believe that BEE and scrapping BEE would be surrendering to the DA, and that they absolutely cannot have that. They are not the DA, and they will not surrender to the DA. In spite of the fact that BEE has destroyed this economy, in spite of the fact that BEE has not uplifted the lives of black South Africans, except if you count a few cadres that are connected to the ANC. But this is no longer a point that the ANC can cede. You see, they've died on this hill. In fact, they've built their house on this hill. To turn around now and admit that BEE was a failure would be the ANC admitting that the last 30 years of their governance has been a failure. The people would lose faith in the ANC immediately. The ANC has spent the last 2 decades convincing ordinary, uneducated South Africans that this is the right approach, and that all they need to do is push a little bit harder, and life will finally get better for the people in South Africa. To turn around now and tell the people of South Africa that, hey, we're going to let go of BEE, when your supporters believe that BEE is their ticket out of poverty, would be the ANC telling their own supporters that they no longer care about the poor and that they want the poor to remain poor, because that has been the strategy of the ANC every single time someone has dared to criticize BEE. You see, the point is, the ANC is a party in panic. They understand that they're losing support across South Africa on every single level, local, as well as municipal, as well as provincial, as well as national. There isn't a single arena in the political sphere where the ANC is holding on to their massive leads. In all of the provinces that matter, and I would exclude Limpopo and the Eastern Cape and Mpumalanga from this, because Mpumalanga might have some value, but the truth is we can do with 3 failed provinces as long as the others are barely operating, or at least operating to some extent. But in all of the provinces that actually matter, the ANC is losing support, and it's losing support fast. They understand this, but they're caught between a rock and a hard place. How do you now turn around and admit failure without looking like you just turned on your own supporters? The fact is, the ANC is a failed political party. They have overplayed their hand so many times, screaming racism so many times, that they have galvanized their own supporters into a position where the supporters will ride the ANC off the cliff. And if the ANC were to even dare turn around, their supporters will literally jump to the next best thing in order to continue the ride down. And there is the EFF, there is the MK, waiting by the wayside. It's important to note that, as we discussed in yesterday's video, the majority of South Africans no longer favor BEE. The majority of South Africans no longer favor race-based laws. But for the ANC, this cannot matter, because the ones that still support them, remember, almost 80% of actual South Africans that can vote do not vote. Almost half of those registered to vote do not vote. So those who do vote, the ones who still vote ANC, the ANC understands that if they give up BEE, they will simply leave and go join the EFF and go join the MK, because all of them are heading the same route. The problem is that they've convinced their supporters that that route will lead to political freedom, economic freedom, and an economic prosperous South Africa, in spite of the fact that none of that is true. It doesn't bear out in the facts. When you look around you, do you see a nation that is actually prospering? I don't. I see a nation that is falling apart. I see a nation run by criminals and parasites. I see 28 million parasites every single year suckling at the teat of a host that is dying, that is diminished already, And I see a government that is looking for new ways to extract even more of what little remains within the host. This cannot continue. Something has to break. Something has to give. What I don't know, and what I think none of us can know, is how it breaks. I don't think this is contentious, and I don't think anyone would think so. Something is going to happen in this country. There is going to be a turn. What I don't know is what that turn looks like and who are the ones leading the turn. But that the ANC has become an enemy of the people, that the EFF and the MK are enemies alongside them, I don't think that is news to anyone anymore. As always, ladies and gentlemen, hit the like if you liked it, if you didn't. Let me know in the comment section down below if you agree, disagree, why is more important to me than if you do or don't. I'd love to read your thoughts. Massive shout out and thank you to all of the patrons as well as the YouTube channel members, because you allow me to make videos like this one. Hit the link in the description down below to become a patron, or the join button right below this video for YouTube membership. Any and all support is always very much appreciated. Be good to each other, be kind to each other, and I will see all of you in the next one. Peace.